Namaste, Dandavat Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're also paying our full obeisances to Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Paravatikacharya Sri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada for offering us this wonderful commentary and purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, commentary and translation of Bhagavatam, and also following the instruction of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, we are praying to Srimati Radharani. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati said, if we cannot understand Radharani within the 18,000 verses of Bhagavatam, then our study has been pointless. Yadi seva vanchitasya ma yasya kripaya vayam labema sarvam prapnuma prayojanam dhamni Shri Bhagavat Pade Krishna sambandhi sarvam cha Yadi na jani mahe tutam ashtadashasu sahasreshu shlokanam bhagavat oktishu radharanim na vindamha tada nishphalam bhagavat adhyayanam radhi kaya kripam vina vyartasyat sarva parishrama. Now continuing from Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order, chapter 25, the descriptions of the characteristics of King Purañjana, text 25. Tam ahalali tam viraha savrida smita sobanam snigdena panga punkena sprishta premo brahmad bruva. Dandavat Pranam Didi. Srimati Uma Devi Asi. Translation. Purañjana, the hero, became attracted by the eyebrows and smiling face of the very beautiful girl, and was immediately pierced by the arrows of her lusty desires. When she smiled shyly, she looked very beautiful to Purañjana, who, although a hero, could not refrain from addressing her. Purport. Every living entity is a hero in two ways. When he is a victim of the illusory energy, he works as a great hero in the material world, as a great leader, politician, businessman, industrialist, etc. And his heroic activities contribute to the material advancement of civilization. One can also become a hero by being master of the senses, a Goswami. Material activities are false heroic activities, whereas restraining the senses from material engagement is great heroism. However a great hero one may be in the material world, he can be immediately conquered by the lumps of flesh and blood known as the breasts of women. In the history of material activities, there are so many examples, like the Roman hero Antony, who became captivated by the beauty of Cleopatra. Similarly, a great hero in India named Baji Rao became a victim of a woman during the time of the Maharashtrian politics, and he was defeated. From history, we understand that formerly politicians used to employ beautiful girls who were trained as Vishakanya. These girls had poison injected into their bodies from the beginning of their lives, so that in due course of time they would become so immune to the poison and so poisonous themselves that simply by kissing a person they could kill him. These poisonous girls were engaged to see an enemy and kill him with a kiss. Thus, there are many instances in human history of heroes who have been curbed simply by women. Being part and parcel of Krishna, the living entity is certainly a great hero, but due to his own weakness he becomes attracted to the material features. Krishna bahir mukahana Bhoga vancha kare nikatasta maya tare japatiya dare. It is said in the Prema Vivarta that when a living entity wants to enjoy material nature, he is immediately victimized by the material energy. A living entity is not forced to come into the material world. He makes his own choice, being attracted by beautiful women. Every living entity has the freedom to be attracted by the material nature or to stand as a hero and resist that attraction. It is simply a question of the living entities being attracted or not being attracted. There is no question of his being forced to come into contact with the material energy. One who can keep himself steady and resist the attraction of material nature is certainly a hero and deserves to be called a Goswami. Unless one is master of the senses, he cannot become a Goswami. The living entity can take one of two positions in this material world. He may become a servant of his senses, or he may become a master of them. By becoming a servant of the senses, one becomes a great material hero, and by becoming master of the senses, he becomes a Goswami, or a spiritual hero. Text 26. Katvam kanja palashaksi kasyasi hakuta sati imam upa purim biru kim chikhir shasi samsame. My dear lotus-eyed, kindly explain to me where you are coming from, who you are and whose daughter you are. You appear very chaste. What is the purpose of your coming here? What are you trying to do? Please explain all these things to me. Purport. The first aphorism in the Vedanta Sutra is Tato Brahma Jigyasa. In the human form of life, one should put many questions to himself and to his intelligence. In the various forms of lower life than human life, the intelligence does not go beyond the range of life's primary necessities, namely eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Dogs, cats, and tigers are always busy, trying to find something to eat or place to sleep, or trying to defend and have sexual intercourse successfully. In the human form of life, however, one should be intelligent enough to ask what he is, why he has come into the world, what his duty is, and who is the supreme controller. What is the difference between dull matter and the living entity, etc. There are so many questions, and the person who is actually intelligent should simply inquire about the supreme source of everything, Tato Brahma Jigyasa. A living entity is always connected with a certain amount of intelligence, but in the human form of life, the living entity must inquire about his spiritual identity. This is real human intelligence. It is said that one who is simply conscious of the body is no better than an animal, even though he be in the human form. In Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Sri Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridishani vishto vatasmartir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. In the animal form, the living entity is completely forgetful of his relationship with God. This is called apohanam cha, or forgetfulness. In the human form of life, however, consciousness is more greatly developed, and consequently the human being has a chance to understand his relationship with God. In the human form, one should utilize his intelligence by asking all these questions, just as Purañjana, the living entity, is asking the unknown girl where she has come from, what her business is, and why she is present, etc. These are inquiries about Atma Tattva, self-realization. The conclusion is that unless a living entity is inquisitive about the self-realization, he is nothing but an animal. Text 27. Kaete nupatayeta ekadhasa mahabhata itavalhalana subru, koyam tehi purasara. My dear lotus-eyed, who are those 11 strong bodyguards with you, and who are those 10 specific servants? Who are those women following the 10 servants, and who is the snake that is preceding you? Purport. The 10 strong servants of the mind are the 5 working senses and the 5 knowledge-gathering senses. All these 10 senses work under the aegis of the mind. The mind and the 10 senses combine to become 11 strong bodyguards. The hundreds of women under the jurisdiction of the senses are addressed here as lalana. The mind works under the intelligence, and under the mind are the 10 senses. And under the 10 senses are innumerable desires to be fulfilled. All these, however, depend on the vital life force, which is here represented by the snake. As long as the vital force is there, the mind works, and under the mind the senses work, and the senses give rise to so many material desires. Actually, the living entity, known as Purañjana, is embarrassed by so much paraphernalia. All this paraphernalia simply constitutes different sources of anxiety, but one who is surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who leaves all business to Him is freed from such anxieties. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj advises a person who has taken to the materialistic way of life, which is never permanent, but always temporary, to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and leave aside all his so-called responsibilities in order to get free from all anxieties. Text 28. Tvam hir bhavanyasyata vagramapatim vichinvati kim muni vadraho vane tvad angrikam bhapta samastakamam kva padma kosha patita karagrat. My dear beautiful girl, you are exactly like the goddess of fortune, or the wife of Lord Shiva, or the goddess of learning, the wife of Lord Brahma. Although you must be one of them, I see that you are loitering in this forest. Indeed, you are as silent as the great sages. Is it that you are searching after your own husband? Whoever your husband may be, simply by understanding that you are so faithful to him, he will come to possess all opulences. I think you must be the goddess of fortune, but I do not see the lotus flower in your hand. Therefore, I'm asking you where you have thrown that lotus. Purport. Everyone thinks that his intelligence is perfect. Sometimes one employs his intelligence in the worship of Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva, in order to obtain a beautiful wife. Sometimes, when one wants to become as learned as Lord Brahma, he employs his intelligence in the worship of the goddess of learning, Saraswati. Sometimes, when one wishes to become as opulent as Lord Vishnu, he worships the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. In this verse, all these inquiries are made by King Purañjana, the living entity who is bewildered and does not know how to employ his intelligence. Intelligence should be employed in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As soon as one uses his intelligence in this way, the goddess of fortune automatically becomes favorable to him. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, never remains without her husband, Lord Vishnu. Consequently, when one worships Lord Vishnu, he automatically obtains the favor of the goddess of fortune. One should not, like Ravana, worship the goddess of fortune alone, for she cannot remain long without her husband. Thus, her other name is Chanchala, or restless. In this verse, it is clear that Purañjana is representing our intelligence while he is talking with the girl. He not only appreciated the shyness of the girl, but actually became more and more attracted by that shyness. He was actually thinking of becoming her husband, and consequently was asking her whether she was thinking of her prospective husband or whether she was married. This is an example of bhoga icha, the desire for enjoyment. One who is attracted by such desires becomes conditioned in this material world. and one who is not so attracted attains liberation. King Purañjana was appreciating the beauty of the girl as if she were the goddess of fortune, but at the same time he was careful to understand that the goddess of fortune cannot be enjoyed by anyone except Lord Vishnu. Since he doubted whether the girl was the goddess of fortune, he inquired about the lotus flower she was not holding. The material world is also the goddess of fortune because the material energy works under the direction of Lord Vishnu, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Ayad yakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. The material world cannot be enjoyed by any living entity. If one so desires to enjoy it, he immediately becomes a demon like Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, or Kamsa. Because Ravana wanted to enjoy the goddess of fortune, Sita Devi, he was vanquished with all his family, wealth, and opulence. One can, however, enjoy that Maya bestowed upon the living entity by Lord Vishnu. The satisfaction of one's senses and desires means enjoying Maya, not the goddess of fortune. Text 29. Nasamvaro vanyatama bhuvi sprik purim imam vira varena shakam arhasyalan kartum adbra karmana lokam param shrir eva yagya pumsa. O greatly fortunate one, it appears that you are none of the women I have mentioned, because I see that your feet are touching the ground. But if you are some woman of this planet, you can, like the goddess of fortune, who accompanied by Lord Vishnu increases the beauty of the Vaikuntha planets, also increase the beauty of the city by associating with me. You should understand that I am a great hero and very powerful king on this planet. Purport. There is a difference between a demoniac mentality and a devotional mentality. Devotees know perfectly well that the goddess of fortune, who is the constant companion of Vishnu or Narayan, cannot be enjoyed by a living entity. This higher sense of understanding is called Krishna consciousness. Nonetheless, everyone wants to become happy by imitating the prosperity of Narayan. In this verse, Purañjana states that the girl appears to be an ordinary woman. However, since he is attracted by her, he requests that she become as happy as the goddess of fortune by associating with him. Thus, he introduces himself as a great king with great influence, so that she might accept him as her husband and be as happy as the goddess of fortune. To desire to enjoy this material world as a subordinate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is godly. The demons, however, want to enjoy this material world without considering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the difference between a demon and a demigod. The word bhuvisprik mentioned in this verse is very significant. When the demigods sometimes come to this planet, they do not touch the ground. Purañjana could understand that this girl did not belong to the transcendental world or the higher planetary system because her feet were touching the ground. Since every woman in this world wants her husband to be very influential, rich, and powerful, Purañjana, to seduce the girl, introduced himself as such a personality. In the material world, whether one be a man or a woman, one wants to enjoy. A man wants to enjoy a beautiful woman, and a woman wants to enjoy a powerful, opulent man. Every living entity who possesses such material desires is called Purusha, an enjoyer. Superficially, it appears that the woman is enjoyed and the man is the enjoyer, but internally, everyone is an enjoyer. Consequently, everything in this material world is called Maya. And thus ends our reading for today. We will continue from text 30 on Wednesday. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai.
Jai.
All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees, Sama Bhakti Veda Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Nishingapali Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ju Ki Jai, Ganga Mai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Giri Govardhan, Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Sham Kund, Radha Kund Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi,
Jai
Bhakti Devi, Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Harinam
Jai
Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai,
Jai
Scientific Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai, Jai Princeton Bhakti Vedanta Institute Ki Jai, Sri
Jai
Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari 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 Bo, Jai Shrimati Uma Devi Dasi Ki Jai.
Jai Gurudev. Sripad
Hare
Krishna
Krishna.
Keshav Prabhu Ji ki Jai. Tanat.
Dhanyavad Didi. Hari Bo.